Hi everyone. A few days ago I finished Longing by Mary Ballog. It was a very engaging story to say the least. I think I have enjoyed all of her books, some more than others, but this one had me glued to the seat for several reasons that I will be explaining in the spoilers section ahead. The story follows Sean Jones and Alexander. Alexander is the new owner of the mine where Sean works, in a town that she desperately wants to belong in. So much so that she sought a husband who passed away by the time the story begins and is currently being courted by someone else. Sean and Alexander meet in dangerous circumstances. There is attraction, and through several difficult times they get to know each other, declare their love for one another, and decide to marry. Now, there are several themes that were truly interesting in this story. One of them is the impending danger of the outside world. The Scotch cattle are constantly present as a force of darkness, coercion, and violence, always present but invisible. It's the first story of Ballog's that I read where there is such darkness. And I think I have read other books of hers where there is an evil villain, but it was somewhat acting in the light of day, even if deceitful. But in Longing, the danger is more part of the nights, it's part of the wild. And maybe she did this on purpose, as part of the effort to contrast Wales to Britain. There's passion in the air in Wales, as depicted by Ballog. There is love and generosity, there is music in their speech, and this brings joy with it. But at the same time, such passion can be violent and instinctive. Base drives can flourish in the wild. Navigating the terror of the unknown was always present, particularly for Alexander, who could at any moment simply return to England, to civilization. As such, courage plays a very big role in this story, and that is life sometimes. The courageous act of facing the terror it represents to leave the safety of our secure sacred grounds for a higher goal, sometimes even if it is to chase an impossibility, as it would be for the owner of the castle, Alexander, to marry an iron worker's daughter, Sean. Another very interesting idea is explored through the dynamics between Alexander and her boyfriend, which is, I guess, the best way to describe Owen. The idea is that of possession, ownership, and responsibility. Sean, in their dynamic, represented love. She's a generous lover, a generous heart, ready to give all of herself fully. Owen represents the owner that loves in a self-serving manner. He sought to protect Sean by coercing and even threatening violence, and ultimately delivering on that threat. Owen represents the jealous, possessive darkness of the wild, of love, passion, and of emotion. Owen saw Sean as his property for himself. Alexander represented the owner that loves in a serving manner, complementary of her existence and his, the half of a whole, who still sought to protect Sean, but by working with her freedom of choice. Alexander saw Sean as his for herself. Alexander saw Sean as his responsibility, his mission. It reminded me of a quote from that movie Kubo and the Two Strings. Upon falling in love, a character tells another, "You are my quest." That was a lovely depiction of the potential for love, for relationships, and not only romantic ones, but all relationships, with children, friends, and family. There is the idea that one should not have an object relation with loved ones, but that may be impossible. An object relationship is how we, in this reality, attach value to the world and people around it. It's the relation that matters, what's in between. How we relate to the object of our affection, how their free existence transforms us, not merely how it augments our pre-existing notion of ourselves. Owen, Sean, and Alexander depict this wonderfully in their dynamics. And it is difficult. We all live in jealousy. We all have the capacity to be jealous and possessive. We're insecure and damaged and would hate to be hurt again, but it is worth it. It's the difference between leading by force and leading by power. It's the difference between shackling someone to you by coercion and force, or by being a light that shines, warms, and attracts. It's the difference between being feared and being trusted. There's two ways to relate to the wild, to passion and nature, to love even, by fear or by trust, by possession or by responsibility. Another really interesting thing that caught my attention is when Owen and Sean are breaking up. She tells him at some point that the only way he could relate to the world was with violence because that's all he had to offer because of his past. Owen is the person we all become if we allow our past to define our present choices. If there is violence, lies, and manipulation, and we do not intervene, that's all we have to offer to the world. Owen was a man with a single tool, a hammer, and so every problem to him needed to look like a nail. What do we have within us? And if we don't know, then maybe the best way to find out is to realize how we relate to the world at large. What is our default mode? There was another lovely idea that made me think that Balog definitely does some interesting reading or has a very high source of inspiration. At some point, Sean sings a song called Hiareth, which is a Welsh word that is hard to translate, but that means more or less longing. Both Sean and Alexander share a feeling of being foreign to the world they're in, which explains Sean's determination to be one of the people and marry one of the miners and seek to be courted by Owen. Though in the process, she was sacrificing her potential. Alexander had never been in Wales and would always feel separate from all the people that surrounded him. They both feel the longing to belong, the terrible sadness and loneliness. But when she sings that song, and Alexander asks her about it, she replied with something so similar to something I read in a book called Spirit Releasement Therapy by William Baldwin that I will just quote him in here instead. All that is, the I am that I am. In this state of total peace, unadulterated perfection, unmoving bliss, there seemed to develop a feeling of boredom, a longing for something else. This urge for something else impelled the source to split off individual sparks of consciousness in order to explore itself in all dimensions, to experience what there was to experience, and finally to rejoin, enhancing the original source with the gathered experience. Each spark of this oneness has a slightly different and recognizable vibration. Each is individual, yet an integral and essential part of the oneness, the totality. Each particle, or spark of the original, is termed a monad. The parts of a hologram, each fragment of the whole contains a complete replica of the totality when it was in its perfect state. The monad is endowed with an urge to return to this perfect state, which keeps in it perpetual motion toward eventual reunion with God. That's how she describes longing in the book. Our souls wish to be something more than what we are, a return to God, so to speak. And in light of the book's title and the theme, it is beautifully apt. Alexander and Sean longed to be more than they were, and they could only achieve that by finding one another. There is something endearing, funny, and beautiful about Sean. Her attitude was well written. The townsfolk are humble, and one can easily see that Balog wrote a special book for her home country. There's also a political and social aspect to the book, which mirrors the dynamics of Owen and Sean. Possessiveness and leading by force for the people's own protection, which end up in a bloody outcome. If I had to summarize the story, I would probably say that this was Balog's way to describe the relationship we can all have with one another, but also with the wild beauty that passion and love can be perceived as having. When we're in love, we can experience it as such a scary and wild force that it's almost like an uncontrollable beast. But we can, through conscious work, resonate with it in a way that serves us and its free existence. And that applies to all of our relationships. Those relationships can enhance our existence through the expansion of our beings, or we can attempt to capture it and force it to conform to our visions of ourselves, collapsing it within ourselves. We either interact with reality by moving outward or by attempting to bring everything inwards. Thank you all for watching this video if you've made it this far. I know it's a bit of a longer one, but this was a very good story. I will be moving on to a new series. I believe I will be picking up the Mistress Trilogy by Mary Balog. And if you liked it, make sure to click like. If you enjoyed it, make sure you share it with your friends and subscribe to the channel. And I will be seeing you guys next time. Thank you. Bye.